Good evening. I'd like to call this evening's planning board meeting to order. First item on the agenda this evening is to review and approve the minutes of June 4th, 2026. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
No.
No? Good.
Move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next, review and sign bills. We do not, I don't believe we have any bills this evening. Next item, board member comments. Dino, anything
No
this evening?
comments.
Steve?
No comments this month, Ms. Chair.
Jim?
No comments.
All right. I am all set. I'll turn it over to you, Chris.
Thank you. Just a couple notes. So we've moved into our master plan update process with the consultant. We've been conducting interviews with staff over some of the major topic areas, having really good conversations on kind of what the current situation of the town is and what the vision for those major topic areas are: transportation, economic development, housing, things like that. So those are ongoing. In addition, the consultant is doing a lot of data collection, and we are sent out the calls to the various boards to create the steering committee. So that's gone out, and the boards will be hearing on that and appointing members to the steering committee. So that'll be forming as well to help us gain traction with that effort as we start to move into developing the process for community engagement in our action plan of tasks. So a lot of progress being made there, really exciting effort. In addition, we've been wrapping up and finalizing the mixed-use moratorium study, coming to the stages of that, as well as the townwide economic plan. And then the 15 Maple Ave study, as well as I mentioned the townwide economic study. So a lot of those kinds of efforts kind of coming to their final stages. So we'll be packaging up that information and distributing it out to the various boards and committees. But a lot of work in the planning sector going on, and happy to have those updates soon.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We will begin the meetings and hearings portion of the agenda. First item this evening, proposed shed administrative review for Castanetti Properties LLC. This is a new public meeting for 2 Maple Ave.
So the proposal is to locate a shed on the property for a, was it the pet kind of shed location, pet pantry, sorry. So it provides an opportunity for people to get donations of, pet products. Is managed on the property by the owner. So it meets the setbacks and the requirements of that district. It does utilize a parking space, but doesn't generally affect the parking of the circulation of the site. So but if the board has any other comments, it's administrative site plan by nature of the business. But
Do you have anything, Steve?
I'm good with it.
Tim?
Any concerns about the visual aesthetics of a shed in the town center district?
It's something that we can kind of consider. Do you want to request elevations of it, or not elevate, but
I mean, it's such a good cause, probably not.
Yep.
I would imagine,
Next to the
making some
ice cream
assumptions
stand.
here. Making some assumptions.
I can fill you in on it if you like.
Oh,
My name
sure.
is Dean Sokos. So it originally
If
started
you could
as
just come up and
Identify
just
yourself.
state your name.
Dean Sokos. It originally started out as a special permit, and then things got changed. That's why I'm here. But it's
You represent the applicant?
yes.
Okay.
I'm the one that applied actually. It's burgundy color and it's white. It's brand new, so it's very aesthetically pleasing. And it's only 10 by 12.
Is it locked at the end of the day?
Of course, yes. It's
Okay.
only open 3 hours a week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So it's
so
not just,
it's only
not like the
available for-
pantry outside
No,
where
no,
it's
no,
like coming.
no, it's not
Okay.
self-service.
Okay.
3 hours a week, and two ladies tend to it at those 3 hours a week, and people know what time we're there, what their time they're there and stuff. So
Okay.
yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think we're all set. There's not a vote that needs to be taken on that,
No,
right?
just the
I think
opportunity
it's
to
just-
comment on it. It's administrative, so staff reviews it for
Sure.
completeness, but, yep.
I think that's fine.
Okay, awesome.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, we actually have a request to withdraw for this proposed mixed-use development site plan approval and special permit for Virginia K. Luke Irrevocable Trust for 525 Hartford Turnpike. Chris, do you want to walk this through a
Yeah,
little
so I
bit?
just want to clarify on this, later in the, if you'll notice on the agenda, we do have the continued public hearing for this, so, with the departure of, some of the members from the board, we were a little bit concerned about the threshold of votes, so we did renotice the application. We've since no longer need, have that concern of the threshold of vote. So the request here is to withdraw that newly noticed, application. We will be continuing with the continued public hearing with the regular active board members, but procedurally, we do have to take the step and vote since it was, the abutters notices were mailed out to residents, so it's a procedural step only.
Certainly, okay. Any questions, comments from the board on that?
No question.
Can I get a motion to withdraw this application?
Motion to accept the withdrawal.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, next item on the agenda is the proposed mixed-use development site plan approval and special permit for Virginia K. Luke Irrevocable Trust, continued public hearing for 525 Hartford Turnpike. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you all tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. So just wanted to get with you guys. It's been a month or so. There was a little bit of confusion stuff going on in between, and we've been working on some plan revisions based upon some comments that we heard. So I guess I'll just review quick. At the June 4th meeting, we reviewed traffic with HSH and Bauman. We had pretty extensive conversation around that, and I think we all landed in an okay position there. And Bauman had signed off on that peer review. Everything's been responded to. And I think we heard some comments from the board as well. One being sidewalk connection from the commercial to the existing frontage on Route 20. We have made that change on a plan. We don't have those stamped yet and submitted. We've been addressing some conservation items as well that came up at the last hearing in conservation. So that sidewalk has been extended from the commercial building to the frontage of Route 20 to make that connectivity to the future proposed sidewalk that's involved with the intersection design. And I think another comment was water flow and sewer. So we went ahead and set up a meeting with Tim Maroney and Justin Richardson, and about 2 weeks ago, we had a good, excellent conversation with them. We learned that there's a 12-inch water main out front. We had since had a pressure test and flow test done on July 2nd. I've uploaded the results of that to the portal for the planning board. That is also on the portal for the water department. Those tests came back and indicated a strong and healthy system. Some static pressure, just for reference, static pressure is 68, and the residual pressure is 52 with the 1,400 odd gallon flow. So under that assumption, making preliminary calculations for the grade change going up to the top of the site and the size of the pipe, we believe that there's ample flow and pressure at the top. We do already have fire pumps designed for each building up top, so that should lessen the concern over the pressure overall to supply water during a time of an event. With the sewer, we had a couple different conversations around connectivity and where we could connect to. It still stands that we have an option to connect to the church parking lot, well, the entrance of the church at the mouth of their driveway at the infrastructure in which the church owns. We also could extend up the side of Route 20 from 526 up to the intersection of Stony Hill and Our Drive. And Tim also said that we can look into connecting directly to Stony Hill, so directly across the intersection. So we do have three ultimate options for connecting to the sewer main. And we had asked Tim, who's since on paternity leave, so we've been chasing it with Justin this past week, just to check in with Weston and Sampson on the capacity. We have an anticipated flow of like 42,100 a day. So there's Weston and Sampson's looking at that now. Justin is in charge of that now that Tim is on paternity leave. But indicating, the conversation indicated that there's no concern over that flow, and connectivity, like I said, there's multiple options. I believe there was a question about sewer pump station, kind of the capacity around that, possibly because of like a blackout or what have you. So we have designed, and it's reflective on the plan changes that will be coming your way, a generator set up with that pump station. So we're pulling gas into the site, so that'll be a gas generator coupled with that pump station. So we believe the capacity is sufficient in that set, in that pump station. And then I guess just since the last time we met, we've discussed a few more things with the fire department. I've issued them our baseline narrative for fire protection. Haven't gotten a response back yet. I was pinging Kevin today. I know Seth's out on vacation till almost the end of the month. So I'll get with them prior to the next meeting and get them to issue their blessing. Our conversations are there. We've got a baseline in front of them. We've got the hose lay plan ironed out with having the dry pipe connections to the rear of the building, so that their hose lay plan is per NFPA and per their liking 250 feet to an exterior wall from each area. So I'll get with them and get them to respond to the portal to get that off of hold and get that closed out. And like I said, we've submitted the hydrant flow testing, and we reviewed the plan, revised the plans for the sidewalk. Some other items that came out of conservation were just some signage around the pond for no dumping and environmentally sensitive area. And then some mountable curb around the commercial area on site. Just there's always a question of how turtles get out of parking lots. So we've introduced some Cape Cod berms to allow turtles to mount the curb and be able to get back into the habitat in which they came from. Just a couple more things really regarding MIPA. We've submitted the ENF today. That got submitted in full this afternoon under the qualified housing criteria. And we should have a schedule on that in the coming weeks as we move through that process. And then we've had subsequent meetings with MassDOT on the intersection design. We were asked to look at a roundabout, which they've already determined isn't suitable there, and it's really not. So we've been asked to go through what they call the ICE program. It's an intersection control and evaluation. So that's going to be a little bit of working on different orientations of the intersection, different widths, different turn lanes. They're going to look at different options and ultimately come to a determination on what's the best fit with signalization of upstream and downstream. So that's in process. HSH is working on that. And we'll be back and forth with DOT for a while on that, I'm sure. So I guess in closing, civil stormwater peer review is complete. Traffic peer review is complete. I guess we're looking for any outstanding comments that may have not been addressed that might require plan changes, and ultimately looking to continue to the August 6th meeting. August 6th, is that right?
Okay. Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Tim, do you have anything?
I do not.
I do have a couple of questions. Excuse me. So actually, more for you, Chris. Do you know if DPW has looked at the reports that were uploaded yet? and provided any comment?
I don't have comments back, but I can double check that they've reviewed them and are satisfied, yep.
Just because, not that I don't trust your hydrant flow testing or whatnot, but it would be nice to know that the town's had the opportunity to review them and comment on them as well.
Most definitely.
The other thing with the water that I had also asked about, and I'm wondering if this is part of the flow testing, was the water quality question.
Are
Because
you
it's-
speaking to the dead leg?
Yeah,
Well,
because it's not a circle or a loop
Yeah, so
system,
it's-
so.
So it's not a loop, but it isn't considered a dead leg.
Okay.
If there's an end user at the end of that line that's got a pretty heavy use at 42,000 gallons a day. So there was no concern from Tim around that. We had asked that directly and had expressed that you had concerns around that. The one thing that he just told us is to keep the hydrants as close to the main as we can, and that was all. So there was no concern. Well, Tim's out for quite a while now, but maybe Justin could opine on that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other item that you had brought up was related to sewer and where you're running the sewer from. And I appreciate the fact that there are 3 good options for you to consider. I'm just wondering which option you're leaning towards.
So right now we're leaning towards the church. It's on our side of the road. A little bit easier to connect downstream there. Alternatively, I'd like to look at the Stony Hill connection with Tim a little bit more in detail when he's back. But ultimately, I don't know that would be ironed out by the close of a hearing, and more likely determined at a later time. But the option would be to cross there if we're doing the work in the intersection already. So as to limit that road work within Route 20 and that headache within Route 20. So that would be ideal.
Okay. Chris, I don't know if this is necessarily a fair question to ask, but I guess, I mean, if this does run over the church property, there'd obviously have to be easements, and that's something that they can deal with. But is the town, the intention is that the town would then be taking over this sewer line, correct? Or would be taking over maintenance of it going forward, or?
I can attest to that. So during our discussions with Tim and Justin, Tim expressed zero interest in owning the infrastructure. So our previous discussions were that they would like to own that pipe that the church has already. They don't have that opinion anymore. So we would own the infrastructure. All the infrastructure with it would be within Route 20 overlay, Route 20 right of way, and not on the church parcel itself. We would have to have a connection agreement, which is in front of the church now, in order to connect to the infrastructure in which they own in that manhole at the mouth of their driveway. But Tim indicated that the town would not have any interest in owning it, any of the infrastructure that we install.
Okay.
So we'd be responsible for the maintenance, upkeep, everything.
Okay. Okay. Those were, I think, my outstanding questions. This is a public hearing. Is there any members of the public wishing to speak on this matter this evening? Yes, sir. Please come up, state your name.
My name is Richard Edwards, and I live at Oak Street, 80 Oak Street. And I just wanted to reiterate the fact that they're looking at putting a 5-story building in Shrewsbury, and I don't think that is conducive and appropriate for Shrewsbury, and it's not keeping with the charm of Shrewsbury. So I've mentioned this many times, and I just want to reiterate that. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak on this evening? All right, seeing none, I think we have some items that we'd like to just check on from the town, and we'll look at continuing this hearing until what you said, August 6th?
August 6th.
The August 6th hearing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll check in with Justin on those items and, like I said, the fire department as well, so.
Okay, that would be helpful, thank you. All right, so is there a motion to continue this hearing to the August 6th meeting?
Make a motion to continue to August 6th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Next item on the agenda this evening is the proposed car dealership site plan approval. This is WJC Enterprises, Inc. This is a continued public hearing for 957 Boston Turnpike and 269 Walnut Street. Good evening.
Good evening. Brian Marchetti here, McCarty Engineering. We've been now presenting this project for a couple of months with Planning and Conservation. We have received all of the comments from your peer review consultant. We're in the middle of, or pretty much wrapped up and done with answering all the review comments and questions, modifying the plans. If they weren't uploaded today, they likely will be tomorrow. So just in the meantime, I wanted to come to give you an update where we're at, and we also have Jason Govin with Dewberry, our traffic consultant, with us tonight here. So in a minute, we're going to have him just come up and give a presentation on the traffic study. And then we did, just for your information, we did meet online with Mass DOT regarding all the MEPA filing requirements. So we started that process with them as well. So we know it's not going to be a quick and easy process, but that's now underway as well. So is there an HDMI, or do I just share this through the meet? All right. So a couple of the comments the board had, they wanted to see. There it is. So wanted to see in the lower parking area how the fire trucks could circulate and navigate the entire parking lot. So this is the plan here, and it can navigate through the entire parking area, the lower parking area, where they're storing all the inventory as well, with ease. So that was one of the drawings that we were asked to provide, and then the second was parking plan, just designating basically the parking area. So we have in red, you see, is all the customer parking, which is all surrounding the building. Total of, where's my Zoom? I believe it's 48. Yeah, so 48 parking spaces in red surrounding the upper building. Employee parking, there's another 73 total spaces, but those are in this area as well as the lower parking queue here. And that's also inventory. There's 600 plus or 494, 600 total, but 494 parking spaces overall, surrounded by the orange, which is all inventory for vehicles that are being sold and stored on the property. So that's just to clarify exactly what the parking breakdown is, subject to change based on need, but there's ample parking here for the Subaru operations. Another comment I wanted to make is conservation requested that we have the wetlands also peer reviewed, the wetland line. So that has taken place. Ecotech out of Worcester peer reviewed it. They walked the line with us, with our wetland consultant and the commission. And they've come to an agreement that the line was acceptable as is. So no changes are required that are gonna force us to make any modifications to the layout that we have proposed. So I guess, short of any other questions that you might have, I'd like to bring Jason up here to present the traffic study.
Question. Talked about a cistern in that lower lot. Did we add one?
It hasn't been added yet. I know as part of the conversation, we were talking about either cistern or potential water main extension, and I
Yeah.
believe the cistern was what we were leaning toward. So it'll be in the revised plan set. I don't know exactly what, Justin, who was supposed to be here tonight, made all the plan modifications. We went through them with Wes. So I'm not sure exactly which path they chose, but one or the other will be provided.
Okay. And I forget to, did we say you needed to go to town meeting for an easement or not?
I don't believe so,
Okay.
no. And I think that was confirmed with the town.
Town did confirm that? Okay.
Yep.
Turning over to traffic. No one else?
Before we move on to traffic, I did have a question for you about the wetlands. So, based on what you're saying, it sounds like they've reflagged them, but
It wasn't reflagged, it was walked and verified, that what we had flagged was adequate.
does that mean, and I know that this is probably something more Concom, but there is still a wetland crossing, or there was at one point a discussion of, like, using the bridge that's going over the wetland crossing to kind of use the bridge as the means of crossing the wetland rather than kind of piping through it? Is that,
So
where does that stand?
it's, I believe we're still planning on pipe jacking under the wetland, so we won't be impacting the wetland. It's gonna be directional drilled underneath it, so we won't be trenching through it. So there'll be no impact at grade at the surface of the wetland.
That seemed, I guess, did that seem like the better option rather than using like putting the piping underneath the bridge for the crossing, or? That seems to be me, again, this is probably getting into Concom.
Yeah, I mean,
But
well,
like, that seems less invasive, but,
it's either way, wetlands are behind the property line to where we're tying into. So regardless of the connection point, we're still gonna have to pipe jack under the wetland.
okay.
So that's something that we'll have clarified and shown in the revised plans next time we see you.
Okay. The other item that we had talked about that I'm assuming potentially would be included in these revised plans is a view shed analysis. And then we had talked about in the back specifically, in that back parking area, the potential of looking at some more vegetative buffering. And then I don't recall the lighting plans for that back lot. And the reason why I was asking about that, I guess, is really for interest of the apartments that are abutting that.
So I know as part of the site plan package, we did submit the photometric plan, which showed that all the lighting was downlighting shielded and contained within the property, so it wasn't directed toward the apartments in the back. And there still was a vegetative buffer of trees provided or maintained in the back.
I guess I don't recall seeing any landscape buffering for that back area.
I said there wasn't proposed buffering, like new trees, but the tree line here, you can see that's probably 10 feet behind the curb line on the plan.
That's the existing tree line.
It's the existing tree line that's gonna be cut back to that limit. So there's still a, you know, I don't have an aerial of this, but there's still a significant tree buffer between the proposed limit of our disturbance in the existing development in the back.
Okay. Okay. Tim, did you have any questions before we move to traffic?
No questions.
Okay. All right. There might be something else that pops up, but we can certainly talk about traffic now if you'd like.
No problem.
Okay. Good evening. My name's Jason Gobbin. I am with Dewberry, and we're working for McCarty as the traffic consultant on this project, and we are performing the traffic impact assessment. So just a brief kind of update on where we stand with the report. We are wrapping it up. We just submitted a draft for the client's review today. Assuming they'll have very minimal comments, we should be submitting that report to the town for peer review either tomorrow or sometime next week. So that will be in the town's hands for peer review within the next coming week or so. But we wanted to get in front of the board and just kind of give an update as well as an overview, quick overview of the methodology of our study and the preliminary findings.
It's not shared on the screen.
Oh, it's not shared. Is it not, hold on, I just noticed the
There you go.
slideshow's not sharing.
Isn't technology great?
I love it.
Pull up the person on the bottom of the windows.
Where is
Third
that?
one over right there.
This one?
Yep. Did we get disconnected from the meeting? Can you tell? Oh, open the windows, the Microsoft Office, the bottom.
This-
Yeah, second one over.
Yeah.
Keep going. Right.
Yeah.
Should be able to hit play.
All right, there we go.
Good thing, I was gonna have to act it out.
You don't want to see my acting. I'm a traffic engineer. Acting's very out of my expertise. Okay, so as you folks know, the proposed development consists of a new 50,000 plus or minus square foot Patrick Subaru car dealership that will be on the northeast corner of Route 9 and Walnut Street intersection. The current site, 957 Boston Turnpike, consists of a few, mainly a landscape depot supply yard. There's also the Granite State Rainbow Play Systems, small facility on the corner, as well as a small single-family home. The existing buildings that are on the project site will be demolished to allow for the construction of the new car dealership facility. So as part of our project study area, one of the first things we do when we want to assess the level of impact that the additional traffic generated by the development will have in the surrounding area is determine the limits of our study roadway network. So for this development, the proposed access, there will be one access that is at the existing curb cut for the Landscape Depot Yard off of Route 9 westbound. That's a one-way westbound roadway, Route 9 in that area, so that will be a right-in, right-out driveway. There will also be a full access driveway proposed off Walnut Street, just north of Route 9. That will be about across from where the existing driveway entrance is to the dental facility, as well as the southern driveway for the apartment complex. So as part of our study area, we looked at several study intersections, which are shown on your screen here. For the furthest west that we went is the intersection of Route 9 and South Street. Anyone who's going to be exiting the site will not have access to go east on Route 9, so they will have to go west to this intersection, which is the nearest turnaround point, where they will make a U-turn and then be able to travel east on Route 9 and either go north on Route 20 or continue east from that point. We looked at the intersection of Route 9 westbound and Walnut Street, as well as the Walnut Street intersection with the existing commercial development driveway and southern driveway for the apartments. And then we also looked at the Route 20 and Route 9 interchange. So a couple signalized intersections there. The westbound and eastbound on-ramps are signalized from Route 20, as well as the Route 9 westbound on-ramp from Route 20 and the off-ramp from Route 9 eastbound onto Route 20 heading north or eastbound. So that's our study area, and within our study area we collected traffic count data to evaluate the existing conditions, get a sense of what the existing volumes, and develop a baseline for our future conditions analysis. Our traffic count data collection program consisted of two 72-hour automatic traffic recorders that were collected, both in the vicinity of the site driveways, one on Route 9 westbound and then the other on Walnut Street. These were collected in April, Thursday, April 16th through Saturday, April 18th. In addition to the automatic traffic recorders, we also completed manual turning movement counts at the study intersections. So 4-hour turning movement counts were collected at all of the study area intersections that I just went over, specifically during the morning and afternoon peak periods on a weekday, so 7 to 9 a.m., 4 to 6 p.m. We also completed a 3-hour turning movement count on a Saturday during the peak period, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And those were used to develop our raw baseline conditions. From there, we look at adjustment factors to evaluate, to try to adjust the volumes to a average condition for the year. We realize that collecting one day of data is not representative necessarily of the entire year. We don't want to design or evaluate impacts associated with just one day. So we look at how volumes could fluctuate seasonally. And in this case, we looked at most recent data was from 2025 from a nearby Mass DOT count station. Those showed that April volumes were about 1% lower than the annual average or monthly average. So we adjusted the traffic counts at the intersections up by 1% to get a baseline 2026 condition volume network. Another key component of a traffic impact assessment is to analyze and evaluate safety within the study area. Within our study area, the high crash location is Route 9 and South Street. That is a highway safety improvement program, high crash cluster. So that is designated as a top 5% intersection crash cluster within the CMRPC region. And that's based on 2019 to 2021, which is the most recent crash cluster data that MassDOT has published. However, this has been a high crash location for years now. There was a road safety audit that was completed by MassDOT back in June of 2019. So we did obtain and review that RSA and compared the most recent crash trends to what was observed and identified in the RSA. We found that very similar trends are existing today as were during the time of the RSA. Vast majority of crashes are rear-end collisions on Route 9, as one would expect with the stop-and-go nature of a traffic signal on a high-speed, high-volume roadway. So there are no particular new trends or issues that we observed from the crash data or our field observations. And from our field observations, it did not seem that many or any of the recommendations that were identified in the RSA have been actually implemented out there. So we would just suggest that the town, if it's a concern for the town, safety at that location, to just keep on MassDOT in District 3 to make sure that some of those maybe even if it's just low-hanging fruit items identified in the RSA can be implemented to try to lower the crash activity at that intersection. We also looked at crashes at the other study area intersections. There were no real safety deficiencies or issues that we identified. Pretty low crash activity at the other intersections. The crash rates, which basically relates the number of crashes to the volume that's at that intersection. Obviously, higher volume, you're going to naturally have higher crashes. So the crash rate kind of puts it into perspective. So we looked at all the crash rates here, and none of the other study intersections had crash rates that were over the MassDOT statewide or District 3 averages for signalized or unsignalized intersections. We also looked at crashes on Route 9 westbound between the Route 20 ramps and the current driveway for 957. And there were actually no reported crashes that were within the MassDOT portal from 2018 to 2022, which at the time of our analysis was the last year that was fully reviewed and verified by MassDOT. Another safety component is making sure there's adequate sight distance at the proposed site driveways. So we went out there, as you can see in the photos, and took measurements and photos to measure the available stopping site and intersection site distances at these locations. The values that we measured did meet or exceed the minimum stopping site and intersection site distances per AASHTO requirements. So we did not see any concerns with site distance at the proposed site drive locations on Walnut or Route 9. So to assess the level of traffic that is expected to be generated, we looked at the Institute of Transportation Engineers, or ITE, trip generation manual. Latest is the 12th edition. This manual basically includes empirical data that's collected in the field at developments of all characteristics, all different land uses, and it basically develops a trip generation rate based on the size of those developments. So for this land use, automobile sales, new land use code 840 was used to estimate the volume of traffic that we can expect to be generated by this proposed facility. During an average weekday, we expect about 1,400 cars a day to be traveling in and out of this facility. During the weekday AM and PM peak hours, there's roughly 100 cars entering and exiting during the morning, with the majority entering. In the weekday PM peak hour, it's about 115, with the majority exiting. Saturday is a higher trip generation number for this type of facility than the typical weekday. So you can see, it's about 2,600 cars a day that we expect to be generated on a typical Saturday, with about 125 cars being generated during that midday peak hour time frame. So we estimate the number of trips that are going to be generated, and then we take those trip generation estimates and we apply these trip distributions that are developed within the study area. These are calculated from the existing travel patterns based on the count data that we collected within the study area, as well as proposed land uses or land uses nearby, regional highways, connectivity to those highways, and those are all factored into developing this trip distribution. So in the big picture here, we have about 20% of the traffic coming from the west of on Route 9, west of South Street. We have about 10% coming from Walnut Street to the north, 40% coming from Route 9 to the east of Route 20, and then we have about 10% and 15% from the south and north on Route 20, respectively. So the site trip generation estimates are, these trip distribution percentages are applied to those numbers, and then we add those trips to the future no-build volumes to get our build volume network. And the future build volume, or future no-build volume, was developed using a 1% annual background growth rate for the 7-year design horizon. That growth rate was coordinated with and confirmed by CMRPC based on their models. So they did confirm that our growth rate was acceptable for this region and the anticipated growth. We also did coordinate with the town's planning department on the anticipated specific development projects nearby that could add traffic, and those developments that were identified, the trip generation estimates were accounted for in our future no-build volume network. So eventually we take the existing conditions, future no-build and future builds, and run capacity analysis to assess the level of traffic operations within the study area. What we do is we compare future no-build to future builds to get a apples-to-apples comparison and what the anticipated additional traffic is expected to impact. What we found was that from the no-build to the build conditions, there were very minimal impacts, largely because the volumes on Route 9 in this area are so high that the volume that's expected to be added by this development, particularly during the peak hours, is very minimal relative to what's out there today. All of the study intersections operated at the same level of service when comparing no build to the build condition. And your level of service, the table on the right kind of shows how that's determined. It's determined by the average control delay. So level of service A, which is the most efficient level of traffic operations, has the least amount of delay, less than or equal to 10 seconds per vehicle on average. And then B, C, D, so on and so forth. As the delay goes up, the level of service gets worse. For the proposed site driveways, the proposed site driveway on Walnut Street is expected to operate at level of service A during all the peak periods, AM, PM, and Saturday midday. The site right-in, right-out site driveway on Route 9 is anticipated to operate at level of service C during the weekday AM and PM peak periods, and a level of service E during the weekday PM peak period when the exiting traffic is at its highest. And although the delay is at a level of service E, that's typical for a stop-controlled approach to a very high-volume roadway such as Route 9. So although the delay indicates a level of service E, the queue lengths there, 95th percentile queue lengths, are less than 2 vehicles. So you're not going to have a long line of cars. We're not expecting a long line of cars to build up. It's just finding a gap on Route 9 will be tough at times, particularly during those peak periods. So the delay, although it's level of service E, like I said, the queue lengths are not anticipated to impact any internal site operations. So our preliminary recommendations, some of these are relatively straightforward, adding the MUTCD compliant stop signs and stop lines on the site driveway approach at Walnut Street. In addition to the stop sign and the stop line, a no left turn sign and a one-way sign indicating the flow of traffic on Route 9 and that there are no left turns allowed out of that site driveway. We are recommending those be installed as well. And we should say, as Brian had mentioned, we did meet with Mass DOT. So we are proposing a curb cut modification at that location. So that will need to be reviewed by Mass DOT through their state highway access permit system. And eventually a permit will need to be granted when they approve the driveway configuration. So any final location or tweaks that might be needed there will be decided by Mass DOT through that process. So we are aware of that and are planning to go through that process. We also are recommending to install a horizontal curve and intersection advanced warning sign on Walnut Street as you're coming south towards Route 9 and the proposed site driveway, just to give advanced driver warning as you're coming around the curve that there will be that four-way intersection now with the new site driveway for the dealership as well as the apartment and the commercial development. And then, like I said earlier, we just would like for the town, if it desires, to stay on Mass DOT to try to implement some of the safety enhancements that they've already identified at Route 9 and South Street. And then, independent of the proposed project, because the impacts are not really, it's already at a level of service F. This is the Route 9 at South Street signalized intersection. We did look at an option to optimize signal timings there. So independent of this, we recommend that Mass DOT evaluates the existing signal timings and potential opportunities to optimize those, particularly for the Route 9 primary through movements, which are operating relatively poor based on our analysis. And with that concludes my overview of the current status of our study.
Okay, thank you very much. Chris, can you confirm, so this study's going to, once we've received it, we'll peer review this?
Correct, yeah, we'll send that off to Bowman for their peer review.
Okay.
Who's the review consultant?
Bowman. Maureen.
Okay. Board member comments? Do you have anything?
So much information here, so no, not right now.
Okay. Steve, do you have
I
anything?
do, as a matter of fact. Now, just based on the history at the existing Patrick Subaru site, there have been issues with the neighbors complaining about test drives on Elm Street, car deliveries on Elm Street, on Old Mill. These are like in Old Mill and Elm Street, where the existing site are kind of like Walnut Street and Floral Street and South Street. They're still old country roads that have just been overwhelmed by the sprawl of Shrewsbury. So I'm not sure if it's part of your charge or not, but I think as part of a condition, I think the board should look at discouraging test drives that involve driving around to South Street, to the Route 9 South Street interchange, then coming up Floral Street, or coming up South Street to Main Street and down to Main Circle to, not Main, is that Main Circle? Main Circle to Walnut Street. And similarly with car deliveries.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's part of your charge or not, but
Yeah, That would be more operations once the facility is constructed. So that would be something that I would think they would have to kind of enforce with where they allow people to test drive the vehicles. But as far as for car deliveries are concerned, so they are going to be restricting people to Route 9 only. So trucks will come in via Route 9 westbound, take a right from that driveway on Route 9 into the site. They will exit onto Walnut Street, but there will be a left turn designated for trucks only for them to then make a left onto Walnut and then make an immediate right onto Route 9. So they won't be making a right turn and heading up Walnut Street into the neighborhoods.
Because we had more, I believe, more than one hearing, this goes back 10, 15 years ago, about the operations at the existing site. Not sure, I forget it under what context it arose, but this applicant was in front of this board with a bunch of angry abutters on Elm Street and Old Mill about the test drives and car deliveries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe the first hearing we had abutters here from that neighborhood.
From Elm Street?
Yeah, in the Patrick Subaru's operations managers were very specific that they're, with the new location, all the salesmen will be trained, all the people taking test drives will be directed. They have an O&M that they have to follow. So it's who polices it. You know, when somebody leaves, it's hard to do that. So it's the more signage, the more instruction they can get. You know, it will be part of their O&M for
Okay,
that.
I just
And
wanted.
it'll certainly be a condition of approval. So if it's people are complaining and it you have the right to.
Yeah, so I think we did have an enforcement,
Yes.
some sort of enforcement hearing
Yeah.
relative to the Elm Street and Route 9 site. I just don't want to have to revisit that for the new site, so.
Yep.
Just bringing it up.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
I would maybe take that one step further, perhaps, and maybe consider, I understand that you're putting a left turn only for trucks on the Walnut Street. Maybe it just becomes left turn only for all vehicles, so that you aren't steering more traffic that is leaving the dealership down Walnut and or Floral Street. I don't know what that does for your traffic.
Yeah, in the
Whatnot.
grand scheme of things, I think we only had, I mean, we're expecting the vast majority of traffic for the car dealership to enter and exit via Route 9 because it is the regional roadway with much higher volumes. I think we had about 10% of cars coming from Walnut Street to the north that we estimated, which amounts to roughly, it's less than 10 cars during the peak hours. So, you know, I don't know, you know, what the applicant, how they would view that restriction. But as far as traffic impacts go, those additional cars onto Route 9 are not going to make any difference from the findings we have.
Okay.
So that was an item that we did discuss with the applicant preliminarily in terms of the access there, and if memory serves, the geometry could affect some of the fire truck access. If we did that, I think we were looking at it as fire truck access only and then exit only for vehicles, but we can revisit that, and to that point, I think that was the other concern, is how would it impact the traffic flows in terms of the impacts at the other intersections. So certainly happy to revisit that, to evaluate that more deeply, and I'll get an answer for that.
Okay. Tim, do you have anything?
You mentioned a modification to the curb cut on Route 9. Can you expand on that?
So it's just slightly shifting. Do you have the site plans on it?
Yeah, I think it's about a 90-foot curb cut right now, where it is, and we're maintaining the same location. I think it shifts like 20 feet to the east. So it's just to fit the wall, the driveway, where it's coming down, the alignment of it. It's the same curb cut, same location. It's just slightly, the location's just shifted
So it would shift further away from Walnut Street?
Yes. And right now, it doesn't meet Mass DOT's standards. So it'll be constructed to Mass DOT standards with the appropriate curbing, the radii, the width that's allowed by them.
Okay.
And right now, it doesn't meet that, so.
So for this exit onto Route 9, did you factor in cars trying to emerge onto Route 9 West? Cars from traveling Route 9 West taking a right turn on Walnut Street? There's a potential for,
Yep.
who
Yeah,
goes
so-
first here? How's this all gonna work?
Yeah, as part of our, and that's something we're anticipating is going to come out of Mass DOT's review in the MEPA process. We do have some preliminary ideas to make that merge, diverge, merge condition operate more efficiently and involve less conflicts. But again, that's going to need to be ultimately reviewed and determined by Mass DOT.
Okay.
But we did do, so I mentioned the intersection analysis. We also did, it's called the HCS Highway Capacity Software. It's used to evaluate freeway segments, specifically merge, diverge, weave, and basic freeway segments.
Yeah,
So we did look at that segment as well, from the merge from Route 20 onto Route 9 westbound, the diverge into the site, the merge into the site, and then the diverge from onto Walnut Street. So we did evaluate all those from a density perspective and to gauge the level of service on that stretch of the roadway. And the density is well within the capacity, and the level of services were acceptable levels. But again, there could be some negotiations with Mass DOT if they have concerns with that, with the layout of that area, with the new use of the site.
okay.
So
Because-
that will be done through MEPA and the driveway access permit.
Got it. Okay.
If there are major modifications to that, though, do you have a sense of what that could potentially do to the frontage? Is there any significant impact, I guess, to what is currently proposed?
No, so we haven't looked into it enough to determine whether there will be significant impacts. I guess very preliminary conversations, if we did need to widen, if Mass DOT did request like a full weaving lane, say between Route 20 and Walnut Street, they believe that would be minor impacts, and it would not impact the site as far as the required frontage that would be needed. But again, we haven't put anything to paper yet. Where we're going to submit to Mass DOT and see what comments and feedback they have, and then go through the process at that time. So if that is requested to take a look at it, then we'll have additional information at that time.
This can't be built without Mass DOT's approval.
No.
So we know we've got a long road with them.
But they usually, that you guys are in front of us, and MassDOT tends to, no offense to MassDOT, take a little bit longer
They do.
than,
Yep.
so we're
And
just trying to,
Any substantive changes, we'll be back with, obviously through the whole process with
Right.
plans.
sure. Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there any members of the public wishing to speak on this matter this evening? Seeing none, we obviously are going to peer review this traffic study. I think there's still a couple of other things that we need to check through with the town. So I would likely try to entertain a motion to continue this hearing to the August 6th meeting. Is there a motion on the table?
Continue this to the, I think it's August 6th
Is there a second?
meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right,
Great, thank you.
Thank you for your
thank you.
time.
Next item on the agenda this evening is the proposed mixed-use development site plan approval and special permit for Spectacular LLC. This is a continued public hearing for 335 Maple Ave. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Just gonna join momentarily. While I'm doing that, again for the record, Mark Bornstein, attorney at Prince LaBelle and Worcester, representing Spectacular LLC. To my right, Sam Adams of Spectacular LLC. Trying to rejoin this meeting. Joining us remotely is Tim Hayes of Bohr Engineering, the engineer of record for the project. Just join the meeting. Just someone go ahead and admit me. Cool. Thank you. Okay, so it's been a month since we last were before you. We submitted some updated layout plans with some modifications to address some of the board comments associated with integration on the site. I'm going to share my screen. Window. Share this window. Hopefully this works. Okay, cool. So you'll see here the biggest. So by and large, the site is similar as you've seen over the last few months. We've advanced this design to include pedestrian connectivity. We've added land bank spaces. We've reviewed that previously in other hearings. But the biggest change, there's really two large changes to these layout plans. The first is this driveway connection between Building 5 on the lower portion of Lot 2 and the supermarket retail store on Lot 2. So previously we were showing pedestrian connectivity, but now we'll have vehicular connectivity between the two sites. Beyond that, folks from Building 5 could also then use the driveways to connect to the Lot 1 development, because as you can see, there's a complete network of driveways connecting Building 5, the supermarket pad, and the lower Lot 1. Beyond that, we have the addition of the right turn only concept on Oak Street, which was requested by the board and some members of the public. That would obviously need to be coordinated with Mass DOT, but that is something that has been designed and it is possible from a layout perspective. In terms of ongoing coordination with staff, we have been working through some of the outstanding questions or comments from the different departments. We submitted an updated memo addressing comments from building commissioner, fire. I think we have a couple other, and Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, we have a couple outstanding questions related to fire, but there's been updated turning radii, turning plans to address those comments. Beyond that, we've submitted a pretty substantial project narrative outlining all of the criteria. We've previously presented that criteria, but there's now a comprehensive overview of the special permit and the site plan criteria. Beyond that, we've continued our outreach to the abutters, specifically the owner of 110 Oak Street. I spoke with council today. He submitted a letter to the board. I spoke to him after the letter, and I went through some of the cross views with him to help kind of understand the layout of the Lot 2 development in the context of 110. So we've reviewed this previously, but he seemed to understand it differently now. So I just want to review this for the board as well, just so you can understand his comments, which is concerns related to impacts related to the development in the context of his client's property. So we have these cross views that we've previously submitted, but we've added some additional dimensions just to provide additional context for the board. So you can see here, let's zoom in a little bit. We've got the 110 Oak Street, which is the Mancini property. You can see here is the driveway for the multifamily development. Down here, you've got the driveway for the Lot 1 development. So you'll see that the grade for the driveway for the multifamily development is at 508 feet. And then the base of the Mancini property is 538 feet. So you have a 30-foot grade difference between the driveway and the Mancini property. So discussing that with him, in addition to the fact that, to zoom in further, you have vegetation, we have trees, additional plantings are proposed as shown on the layout plan. We have this 6-foot tall existing fence. We have an additional 6-foot tall fence on top of the retaining wall, and then we have this 14-foot retaining wall adjacent to the driveway. So we reviewed that with him to help him understand in terms of visual or sound impacts, given the distance and the topography, they're likely to be minimal, but certainly understand that his client would prefer not to have a driveway near their property versus what's being proposed. Do you want me to zoom in more? Because
No, that's fine.
Yep. And beyond that, we've talked about this previously, but I rehashed this with him because I think it's really helpful to understand. This is the rear portion of the property. So, again, their property in the rear is at 538 feet. I'll zoom in better because it's clearer on my computer, maybe not on the screen. So you can see here it's at 538 feet, and then it's 200 feet away to the property line. There's, again, vegetation, there's a fence, then there's a retaining wall, and then there's the difference in grade there is about 20 feet. Now, in terms of the bottom of the wall, it's 504 feet. That's the base of the multifamily building. So you have about a 34-foot grade difference between the base of the multifamily building and the base of the Mancini property. So in terms of visual impacts, you'll see that they're essentially seeing about 25 feet of the proposed multifamily building.
Or less when you factor in the fence,
Right. There's also the fence and vegetation, but
the 2 fences.
right. Any questions regarding those cross views?
I don't think so.
So it's included in the materials, but just to summarize, we've been working with staff regarding the community benefits associated with the project. We've touched upon them over the course of a few meetings now, but we were able to do some real diligent review of what's actually being proposed in terms of the improvements. Now, certainly part of these have been previously discussed, but not really summarized. So we've talked about the requirement, obviously, for affordable housing units. That's required under the bylaw. But we calculate that approximately 1,240 linear feet of sidewalk is being proposed along Oak Street and Maple Avenue. And that's in addition to 1,300 feet of sidewalk along Route 9 that's being proposed as part of the Lot 1 development. So a pretty significant amount of additional sidewalk that's being proposed. In addition, we're installing those rapid flashing beacons on Oak Street and Maple. We've talked about the pocket parks. There's going to be ongoing coordination with different historical organizations associated with the Chelmsford Ginger Ale Factory, and we've talked about the right turn. In addition, we've been talking with staff about additional opportunities to further integrate the neighborhood with the development. I believe there's been folks from the community have reached out regarding it's the Boston Air Trail.
Yep, Boston Trail.
We're in preliminary discussions with staff on that, but that's certainly something the applicant is willing to consider to further improve the integration of the project in the surrounding neighborhood. Because currently, based on what we've heard from staff in the neighborhood and the community organizations, there's really no feasible way or convenient way to get from Oak to Maple now. So this would allow for a recreational path across the property for folks to traverse the property as they're doing that particular hike. I think that's generally kind of where we are. I think we still have some additional outstanding questions and comments that we're working through with DPW regarding some water and sewer questions. Yeah. Yeah, there's also been discussions with staff about any other potential community benefits that could help further integrate the development within the neighborhood. So we're certainly willing to hear from the board and solicit any feedback that you guys have.
Dino, do you have anything?
Oh, not right now, no.
Steve?
I appreciate your efforts to try to integrate the site, and I know you got grade issues, but in my opinion, it's still, this Lot 2 is still, although both projects are located on one lot, it's 2 separate projects. It's the multifamily and it's the 20,000 square foot retail at the bottom of the hill. And it's a stretch to call it in my opinion, and I'm just one vote, it's a stretch to call it mixed use. And, the community benefits, you're looking for 270 units. That's more than any other project in the town of Shrewsbury, recent mixed-use project in the town of Shrewsbury. And I struggle to see how this is integrated, and I'm sympathetic with what Mr. Adams is going through across the street, but it's kind of hard for me to look the other way and say, this is really a mixed-use development absent something more significant for the community benefits. And I'm just, I know you're working, I know you got great issues, but I'm struggling with it, to be honest with you. I'm still struggling with it. And I thought our offline meeting was productive, but it's 270 units. It's a lot of units. If it was a smaller project, maybe I could see smaller residential component, maybe I could see looking the other way on the integration or the mixed use component. That's kind of where I stand right now still. So maybe you work on the community benefits a little bit more.
Certainly, and I appreciate that feedback. If the board has thoughts as to what community benefits could justify, a vote for approval, we certainly we're all ears.
Is there any consideration of lowering the count of the unit count? Have you looked at that at all? Is there a way of, trimming a floor off these buildings, or?
Yeah, so ultimately, as we've talked about, the grades and the infrastructure and the improvements on site. So a lot of effort has been undertaken to design these accessible walkways. There's gonna, as we've discussed, I think it was like 90 feet of grade change on the site.
Yeah.
And so it requires a significant amount of work. And so certainly the density is going to be needed to justify the cost for the project. Now, in terms of addressing the integration piece, I would just emphasize that the multifamily and the supermarket are not really in a silo. Certainly, as we've talked about, it's integrated with the Lot 1 development. And beyond that, you've got Marketplace and the rest of the commercial uses along Route 9. So we're not looking at the integration and the mix of uses as just this particular site, but kind of how this fits in with the overall puzzle, which is the Lakeway Overlay Common.
No, I hear you on that, but again, you're kind of requiring us to look the other way and saying, oh, this Lot 2 is a mixed-use development, and I'm just not there yet, to be honest with you. And 270 units is a gift, if that's what we gave you. It's a lot of units. And, if you tell me the grades, it sounds like we're talking about a variance. It doesn't sound like we're talking about a mixed-use project. If you tell me, what you need to make it work, well, just do the supermarket down below. Then you don't even have to deal with the grades.
What do you mean by that?
What do I mean by that? You say you have to do a tremendous amount of site work in order to build the apartments. Okay, well, maybe you don't build the apartments because it's not a mixed-use project, is what I'm saying. You don't need to do a lot of site work to do the supermarket.
No, certainly.
By any stretch of the imagination.
Sure.
So by doing the apartments, it's really requiring, in my estimation, and again, other members of the board may differ from me, and
Sure.
the applicant differs from my opinion,
Sure.
obviously. But it's the way it's laid out now is not mixed use. If you go look at, I was at Lakeway Commons today, and I saw people walking back and forth with their groceries from the Whole Foods, pushing their carriages up to the apartments. That's not going to function that way. And you're looking for 270 units. That's more than Edgemere Commons. It's more than Lakeway Commons. And you tell me, oh, geez, I need these units to make the numbers work. Well, maybe just don't build the apartments. you can build the supermarket as of right, I believe. And I'm trying to work with you.
Yeah, no,
I just don't. I just don't see the benefit with. And I know you're trying, and we always come back to the site work and the grades, and you know, at some point, 270 units. And Mr. Adams has been forthright that he's probably not going to develop these units. But 270 units, if he's going to sell them, is a monetary windfall. I know what the units go for. I know what the permits go for. So to tell me that, oh, I need those for the site costs, I just don't see it. So if you made the project smaller, you know, maybe I'd be inclined. And I know you've tried, but again, maybe some projects aren't meant to be so big on a site that has so many challenges, especially if you're coming under the mixed-use bylaw. That's just me.
Tim, do you have anything?
That's the difficulty, Mark, in that, you know, what we've discussed previously was the connectivity, and is this really in the spirit of the Lakeway Overlay District in terms, does it promote pedestrian and bicycle traffic? And that's the difficult part of this, because I was expecting maybe some, I'm not sure, I know it's, the site itself poses all kinds of restrictions in the design of it, but I was expecting more of a revision in terms of aiding the idea of people actually walking from the apartment to the supermarket, and this really doesn't do it. So that's still the difficulty I'm having in that, does this really meet the criteria for this district?
Yep. So, I mean, I certainly hear that comment. So, reviewing the bylaw, I looked at the special permit criteria, and it says the planning board may approve a special permit for the proposed use of structure upon finding the application complies with the purpose of the bylaw, which there seems to be some disagreement as to whether or not it complies with the purpose of the bylaw, but we can discuss that. To the degree consistent with a reasonable use of the site for the purpose permitted within the Lakeway Overlay District. So I would assert for the board that a reasonable use of the site, it's difficult to use this particular site. And what we have presented is the best option with respect to connectivity, walkability, recognizing that the board would like to see more, but from a practical standpoint, and a reasonability standpoint, we're kind of at a loss providing additional connectivity here.
Yeah, that's fair, Mark, but the topography of the property is, in essence, your problem, not the board's problem.
That's ADA compliant, though.
Right.
Walkways.
So, and I think, and we've talked about this at length before, but just to reiterate, we have an extensive network of accessible walkways, right? And so we recognize that it's a great distance, but certainly it's a distance that reflects the overall size of the site, right? And so in order to make this an accessible walkway with the topography, that does require that length. We've certainly tried to decrease that length. Trying to zoom in here so you can see it, but not accessible, but certainly there are staircases that would allow folks just to walk from the quad of multifamily buildings down to the lower portion of the site, which would expedite their access to Maple Avenue, but certainly to ensure that we have an accessible walking experience for not only folks that live on the property, but patrons that might live in the neighborhood. I mean, currently, if you live on Oak Street, right, how would you get to Marketplace? You'd have to drive. There's no other way to do that. And so from our perspective, we are now creating opportunity where folks who live in this apartment building here, when we were talking about the middle school earlier, there's a significant amount of single family houses in that neighborhood. And that unlocks Marketplace and the rest of Route 9 to this entire neighborhood, which currently, unless you want to go to Bolero, there's really not too many other places you're walking in terms of Route 9. So I hear the comment that we'd like to see better and shorter pedestrian connectivity, but in terms of the purposes of the bylaw, it's to decrease the number of curb cuts, which we certainly have in coordination with Mass DOT. we have these common driveways between the lot 1 and lot 2 development on the lower portion. Where we can do it feasibly, we have. And we've added that additional connection to the building, to residential building 5. So, I recognize that we have additional comments that we need to address with staff. Certainly, I would encourage the board, if you haven't already, review our project narrative. We go systematically through each of the criteria. I recognize that the board is looking at that integration and mixed use component pretty heavily. But I think looking at the totality of the criteria, I think that from my perspective, we've addressed that criteria. So I recognize that the board would like to see fewer residential units, and we can continue to have those conversations with the board and staff.
I think that would be productive, because I don't think the connectivity, I know you tried, and I know Sam's trying across the way at the marketplace, and I appreciate that. And I really don't have a problem with the commercial development. And I hope, as Sam said, he's confident that he's gonna get those all leased up, and I hope you do. But I'm just kind of struggling with the amount of units and the connectivity of Lot 2. That's just my feeling.
Tim, do you have anything else?
No, I do not.
This is a public hearing. If there's any members of the public wishing to speak on this item, please come forward, state your name.
My name is Jerry Simone, and I live at 330 Maple. As a matter of fact, I live right there. Okay, right across the street from 55 feet setback. I've been coming to a number of meetings, and it seems like that they have done quite a bit and bent over backwards, and there's been a lot of discussion about Oak and how these other buildings border Oak. And I remember last they talked about the noise pollution potentially on the roof. You could see them from the house, and I see today that they put up more of a buffer. They talked about a 6-foot wall. It's 200 feet from the house. Okay, I'm here today to say this building here hasn't been discussed that much. It's the biggest building. There's 100 people. It's 55 feet setback. Okay, you're talking 200, and they've done kind of, there's no buffer. There's no fence. Think of you in your house. 55 feet is about 2/3 of the way to those doors from where you're sitting. Okay, 5 houses, including mine, are going to be looking up. Not only is it 50 feet high, but it's set up on a berm. It's set up even higher than that. We're talking probably 70 feet high, 55 feet back, probably 100 units in that. That's probably 200 windows. Drive down Maple Avenue when you leave here. Go in that direction. There's a street light across the street on Maple Avenue. I have to close my blind because that street light, I'm not complaining about it, but that's so bright that it shines into my house. There's going to be 200 windows that are going to be 50 feet back. An ominous building. Noise pollution. You're talking about, how would you imagine all the heating units and all the air conditioning units being 2/3 of the way back here for this building? You wouldn't be able to hear us speaking. You wouldn't be able to hear yourselves. The noise pollution, the site pollution, looking at cement 4 feet high when the bylaws say 4 stories rather, when the bylaws say you shouldn't go more than 3 stories. You shouldn't go more than 60 feet, 50 feet, I think, by the bylaws. It's going to be more than that. That by special permit, you're going to have to approve that. This will singly destroy the value of those 5 homes across the street. Drive down Maple, is already 2 for sale on Maple, up a little ways. I live right across the street. I'm a realtor. Believe me, this will destroy the value of those homes across the street. And it'll destroy the quality of life, too. Okay, I don't know if you need to cut back on this or you're gonna do a couple of buildings, whatever, but that's the building I would look at first. And maybe I'm being a little selfish here, but there's no buffer, there's no walls, there's nothing. It's 55 feet of cement that we're gonna be staring at.
It's the only one connected to the
Pardon me?
commercial component of the site. It's the one I like the best.
Yeah. I'm just
I don't
reading
live across the
too,
street, but that's the one I like the best.
Just if I may, from the bylaws, it says that it should include, in this particular Lakeway district, a neighborhood or community facility. A mixed-use development shall also provide a neighborhood or community facility open and available to residents of nearby neighborhoods or the town. It meets community needs as determined by the planning board. It may include a small public park with furnishings and pathways, a tot lot or small neighborhood playground, a bandstand. And just finally, I mean, you've heard this before. I've mailed in 4 times to the board we're able to mail them, to send you our feelings, and I've said this before, I'm sure you've gotten a lot, but you've heard it before, that it should provide, according to the overlay district regulations, appropriate scale, design, operation, and visual character for a New England downtown or central business district. And it should provide exemplary architectural design. I just implore you, really, I'm asking you to not give a special permit. If you want to cut this back a little bit, the supermarket may be an idea, but the residential is just going to be, I didn't even talk about the traffic and the additional 150, 200 cars that are to be coming onto Maple Avenue at that point. But hopefully I made my point, especially about that building there, that will really destroy that area of Maple Avenue and the lifestyle of the residents that live there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yes, sir. Please come up, state your name.
Richard Edwards, 80 Oak Street, and I would just like to reiterate what this gentleman just said. This project that they're proposing here is a round peg that they're looking to jam into a square hole. The setup that they have there is not conducive to the area. 270 units, way too many. 4 stories does not, 4-story apartment buildings is not conducive with the neighborhood that has no more than 2.5 to 3 stories. They have, the neighborhoods have some type of a pitched roof. The apartment buildings that they're looking to put in here are basically flat. So it just doesn't fit in with the design within the area for this section of Shrewsbury. And as far as walkability, that's just a false promise is all I can say, because there's not going to be many, if any, people, because of the grade, that are going to be looking to walk from the supermarket or the specialty store that they're looking to build, to walk through a whole series of sidewalks to get up the hill to those apartment complexes. Way too many. And the thing is that they say, well, it's not economically feasible to do anything less. Well, maybe this site is not the place to do this. And it's just unfortunate. And I did see that the attorney here was very vociferous in his defense of the project and everything. And but I would say that don't buy the spiel. So, thank you very much.
He's doing his job. That's what he's hired to do, and I respect that. So,
If I may just speak to the height of the buildings. So certainly as the board's aware, we're not seeking a variance associated with the height of the buildings. The bylaw specifically authorizes multifamily buildings, specifically residential buildings, may exceed the height, maximum height requirement through the special permit. And beyond that, it specifically says in the bylaw to sit the structures away from Route 9. So that's what we've sought to do with this particular design.
Understood. Any other member of the public wishing to speak on this matter this evening? Yes, sir, please come up, state your name.
Good evening, Paul Lindsay, 86 Oak Street. I've been up here previously, just to bring up, it hasn't come up really about the traffic on Oak Street again, and the incline in the winter time, and the amount of bus traffic, and adding 207 units with access only in and out of Oak Street is going to put a lot of additional stress onto that street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member of the public wishing to speak on this matter this evening? All right, seeing none, we did receive these updates and as well as the package that you had sent over. Many of us received it just today. I think we have an obligation to kind of read through it and kind of digest a bit more. I think so. Obviously, I think we're looking at continuing this hearing to August 6th. I do think Mr. Rodelake has made some very good points this evening. I ask that you perhaps really take those to heart. I think that there's some potential here, just something something to consider.
You're trying, but I think it's just too big as it currently stands. And again, I don't fault the applicant for trying to make money, but it's a tough site.
So with that, I would ask for a motion.
I move that we continue the public hearing on the 335 Maple Avenue mixed-use Lakeway Commons project until Thursday, August 6th at 7 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is to discuss and deliberate on the decision for 335 Maple Ave, the
Can we stay here
proposed,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Madam Chair. Okay.
the proposed commercial development site plan approval. And you know that we do have a decision before us. Again, personally, this is a decision with some edits that were sent to us later this afternoon that, quite frankly, I have not had the opportunity to review all of those edits yet and am not necessarily comfortable in issuing this without having the ability to properly read through them and see if they are as all-encompassing as we would like them to be. So I don't know if other members of the board, what the pleasure is of the board on this, but that's
I
just
didn't have an
my,
opportunity to review them either.
Second.
Agreed. I did not either. I reviewed the previous draft decision, but not the one
Yeah.
that came in today.
We just got them at like 4 o'clock.
Yeah, certainly understand the desire to review them. But just to be clear, the board previously received the prior draft, correct?
Yes.
we did
Yes.
receive the prior draft. There were some pretty significant edits. I mean, we have blue lines on this.
Could I
that-
throw out the idea, if Madam Chair would be so inclined, could we walk through them with staff? And because I recognize they look like a lot, but when you start digesting them, they really aren't a lot. Just, if I can.
Are you trying to make this meeting go till 11 o'clock
Right, Sam,
tonight?
have a
Like,
user.
come on, man.
Uh,
You got a user, Sam. You need it.
Well, as we emphasized to the board, that time is of the essence. So, I certainly
I
don't
know he
want.
lost Chase. He told me that.
So there are tenants that are being lost as we continue to.
They're watching.
I don't know if they're watching, but certainly we would certainly appreciate the consideration if the board is so inclined.
What is the pleasure of the board?
What about the issues raised in the Graves peer review letter of July 6th? Have those been responded to?
That's my understanding. Tim Hayes is on remotely. He can speak to that as well. Was that
The
related?
majority of Tim Hayes from Bowler Engineering. The majority of the comments from Graves were closing out the items that we had previously coordinated with them. There are a few minor items, in my opinion, that we will be responding to shortly. I don't believe that they'll be substantial and no actual impacts to the plans themselves. Mostly cleanup items they requested.
The retaining walls around the Masonic home don't seem to be a minor item though, do they?
There will be designed by a structural engineer, and they will be designed with fall protection as they suggest.
So through the chair, it's been my experience that generally retaining walls aren't designed by the civil engineer. They're done and submitted prior to the building permit application.
Understood, but Graves was questioning even the feasibility of doing them.
Well, certainly, if there's a feasibility issue and the project has to change, we would certainly have to return to the
I
board.
think it was shortened in height and length.
Tim, can you speak to the retaining walls?
Yeah, we had actually previously moved those back from that property line to provide
They were
more
shortened
depth.
in height and length. And that was acknowledged in the peer review that I read today, that came in today.
Was that in response to the Graves letter of July 6th?
I'm sorry?
Was that in response to Graves? July 6th letter?
Yeah, and the response from Graves.
And the July 6th letter, Sam? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one that got posted today.
All right.
Maybe you could speak to the comment that you're referencing, just because we got it right in front of us here.
My understanding is the July 6th letter, acknowledges that they no longer have any comments about the feasibility of constructing that wall. You're talking about comment 14?
Comment 12.
Comment 12 I'm reading is regards to erosion control.
Is this the mixed use, through the chair, mixed use, or this is the commercial?
This was lot 1, this is commercial, yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're playing from the same
Yeah.
sheet of music here.
Yeah, 12 is well, maybe Tim is looking at this one.
Tim, are you looking at the mixed use or are you looking at the commercial?
I only have the one that I downloaded from the portal this morning, which is the mixed use.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me
okay.
look. I'm gonna pull up the commercial one.
Mark, the blue is your comments?
It's not just mine. I provided some feedback to Chris, and Chris also provided some additional comments.
Okay.
I provided the draft condition related to, in coordination with Chris, related to the amendments to the future, to the pads in the future. Just, we've talked about it, but I just want to clarify it.
We can move on, Mark. The
Okay.
walls, it's,
I guess when I looked at 10, and Tim, you done, I'm sorry.
yes, I am, yes.
I read the second paragraph in 10. The applicant may seek approval of a site plan amendment for any individual pad and its associated improvements at any time to the extent required under the zoning bylaws. May or shall. It's if you got a drive-through, you're gonna have to come back to us. I don't want you guys saying, "Oh, it's at our option."
No, certainly.
I don't want to have,
I mean, I think ultimately the use of may was in the context of seeking an amendment, so we might not seek an amendment for a particular pad, but it was all based on whether or not the bylaw and the rules regulations require it. So that's why I have to extent required under the zoning bylaws or rules regulations.
May, but I don't. It's not the best draft. Well, it's favorable to you, so it's good drafting for you, but it's not the best drafting for the town.
We're not trying to pull a fast one on you.
I'm not suggesting you are. I just don't want to be back here.
Well, right, and
With you have a Chick-fil-A with 3,000 cars an hour, and
certainly understand the concern. I think we're just trying to have assurances that if for whatever reason, a tenant comes forward and they said, we're gonna build this based on what that layout is, we wouldn't have to come back for a site plan amendment, but
Yeah.
ultimately, we wanna ensure that each pad is evaluated on an individual basis. So that way, if someone is under construction and then someone seeks a site plan amendment, we don't open the appeal period for all the pads. We wanna make sure that any appeal period is specific to the individual pads. That's really the basis of this condition.
That's not what it says.
Say that last piece one more time, Mark.
So the idea is we're seeking a broad site plan approval right now, right? And we've all discussed the fact that as a tenant is signed up, they are likely going to bring their design to you and they're going to seek an amendment to that site for that specific use.
Yeah.
That's likely going to be the case. If for some reason there is a site that's already under development, right? And then so in essence, if we have one site that's under development and then someone seeking to amend their site, we don't.
Second site.
The second site.
Yeah.
Third site.
Or a third site. We want the pads evaluated on an individual basis, so we're not reopening the approvals for all the other pads just for that specific modification. Just from an appeal period perspective and just from a leasability standpoint.
I think that's
Understood.
reasonable,
Understood.
but I just,
If the board has recommendations regarding language, we're certainly, all ears.
I just don't like the way the first sentence reads. The applicant may seek approval of a site plan amendment for any individual pad and its associated improvements at any time to the extent required under the zoning bylaws.
Yep.
Why now, Mark? Why so late? Why didn't we get this a week ago?
So we've been working with staff on the language.
I don't think it's nefarious, I just think it's the holidays.
Okay.
You know, I think it's 4th of July.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that we're not, you know,
Maybe Chris, you could provide any feedback that you have on
creating some sort of jurisdictional dispute between us and the building inspector that we gave an approval that Patty's gotta go along with.
Yeah, so I haven't spoken to Patty about this. I do think there's enough tools for enforcement in our toolbox. So, I had similar impressions when I first read through this language. But I think it really memorializes, when I read through it, it really memorializes a practice that we already do when we see modifications, whether it's through administrative, field changes or whether it's full modifications that come before the board. In this case, if the board does have a concern, I think we could include language that says that they shall come back, even if it's a field change for any of the modifications.
Why shouldn't it be just the applicant shall seek approval of the site plan amendment for any individual patents associated at any time to the extent required under the zoning board? Why is it may?
Yeah.
It should be shall. And again, you've covered yourself with the, that it doesn't reopen the whole site plan approval for the 6 remaining pads, and that would be absurd.
So I think maybe we just could add to that sentence, to the extent that the applicant is seeking to modify the layout or seeking to modify the individual pad. I just want to provide some context as to, we don't want to be expected to come in and seek amendments if we don't have to seek an amendment to the site plan.
I'm not suggesting you should, but I think it's highly unlikely that you're gonna have someone who comes in and says,
I think it's very unlikely, yes.
here you go.
To make it say shall,
Yeah.
or what?
He said shall. Okay.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. You need it. And you're protected either way. I think you're protected if you say may or shall. And shall, it makes it more definitive that you have to do it if you need to do it, rather than may sounds like you have, that you can elect. That's an option you can elect, even though you're required to do
You
it.
can elect, something we're
Right?
signing.
I mean, that's what you're saying. That's
You're
what
gonna
you're saying,
say,
right?
wow.
It's just more definitive.
Correct.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, I understand what the intent is.
It's my understanding that the rest of the modifications, though, to the decision, were recommended by staff.
I'm happy to walk through those if the board would like.
Uh,
Yeah, the Estes stuff looks like.
Yeah, Chris, if you want to give a quick overview of what the other ones are. I mean, it's obviously giving us all an opportunity to continue to review some of this. This is,
I don't want to hold you up.
So I'll just go in order. So that, the one we just discussed is the first one. The second edit would be prior to the issuance of a building permit. It requires a construction management plan. So again, this is a practice we typically require anyways, but it memorializes it. We do specifically call out a construction phasing schedule, including all proposed site utilities. An interim landscaping and slope stabilization measures owing to some of the site work and slopes that we're anticipating during construction on the site. Equipment and material staging plan, as well as construction material and equipment delivery routes, including the anticipated delivery schedule. So, again, this kind of memorializes that practice that we typically do with these larger projects, looking at where the delivery routes are going to go, making sure that during the operation of the construction, that it's not creating undue impacts on town roads and traffic. Or stabilization. So this memorializes that in writing and would provide additional enforcement authority to the town. The next one, number 23, no staging of equipment on public roads, including Maple Ave and Oak Street, which the applicant was not proposing, but again, puts that in writing. It also has a condition that the equipment shall be stored only on site while in use and cannot be stored for greater than 30 days unless in active use. So no long-term storage of equipment unless it's actively having a purpose to be on site. Again, not what the applicant was proposing, but puts that in writing. The next two, the next one, 25, is for pressure flow tests. So that was primarily some of the conversations that we had with DPW this afternoon related to some of the pressure flows and the utilities there. This language conditional is amenable to them. This is typically something that's done during construction and prior to occupancy to ensure that the pressures that were calculated, that were estimated, are actually flowing properly to ensure proper fire and domestic water service. And then, the next two, 26 and 27, work in tandem. So the first one being the Transportation Demand Management Program language. So they'll be required to provide a Transportation Demand Management Program as well as a coordinator being designated. That will allow us to provide materials for rideshare opportunities, trying to cut down on the typical traffic through those measures. The applicant and their tenants will have to provide those materials to their employees and provide those options and educational materials for ways to reduce traffic trips.
And Chris, if I may, just one point of clarification, so through the chair, the language says specific amenities will be provided to discourage off-site trips. We would just ask that instead of it saying including, we say which may include, just because some of the retail facilities might not have a break room. So instead of mandating it, including a break room, we would just say which may include. So there certainly will be specific amenities to prevent those off-site trips, but instead of saying including, so which may include.
That's fine.
yeah, I think that's fine. The secure bicycle parking will be provided at an appropriate location within the project sites. When we say sites, are we saying that there's going to be bike storage at each individual development pad?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I would mirror this condition in that project as well. So we do say sites. It could be either one, but we would.
Well, when you say sites, though, I'm thinking like commercial pad 1, commercial pad 2, so they will each have their own individual bike racks.
Like Starbucks does.
That's fine.
You lean your bike against the building, right, Sam?
There is no bike rack.
Right.
Right.
So you lean your bike against
Correct.
the building. Correct, yes.
Okay.
So I guess my like recommendation would be that instead of saying secure bike parking, could we just say bike parking? Because secure sometimes means interior.
Yeah.
Based on the bicycle standards.
Okay, so turn that may into shall,
And take out
Mark's,
the
you know,
secure.
he's put it in there like 10 times, that nothing that you may have to do on one site invalidates the rest of the approvals.
And then the final condition is fairly standard 5-year traffic post-occupancy monitoring. I did tie that to the last of the commercial structures to be occupied for the clock to start and those obligations to begin. But that is something that the board has in the past considered phasing. It does become a little bit challenging depending upon how the project is phased, but it's up to the board if they'd like to do a phasing approach or just put it at the very end when the full site is occupied.
Do you have a preference?
We don't have a preference. We defer to staff.
Okay, let's do it the way Chris suggested.
Okay. Any other edits from the board? What is the board thinking? Was that sufficient?
I think so. I think Sam's entitled to an approval.
Where's that language for the right turn only on Oak Street that DOT's they're gonna work on? I saw that. I can't find it for some reason.
So that's not included in this portion, so we had discussed that those community benefits would be tied to the special permit of the consideration of the
Lot 2.
Lot 2.
Lot 2.
So
It is included. So it is in 17.
Applicant shall meet with DOT to evaluate the potential to include a right turn lane. Yeah.
I did put that in.
Okay, good.
That's the right turn, that's at the signal, adding at the signal.
Yep.
I don't think we can require Sam to do that.
Right, yes, it was, so I put the strongest language, so to the extent feasible, would coordinate with MassDOT, but it does require their approval.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it just means he would meet to discuss it, the possibility, right?
Well, I think it says if no improvements are agreed upon or found to be feasible, evidence of such determination will be provided to the board. So presumably there would be some type of communication from Mass DOT that would justify the exclusion of the right turn.
Well, you may come in with a user that just isn't gonna work out, I have to go look at the bylaw as to what are the triggers for any of these bad sites that you're gonna have to come back. You may have to come in with a user that generates such traffic, you may need it. Hopefully.
Yep. We're willing to meet with Mass DOT.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was, I mean, it's valid. The Oak Street residents have a valid point there.
It's proximate to this particular lot as well.
Okay,
But it's not something we can mandate.
right,
Right.
right. But at least it's in there, at least it's mentioned.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you all done with conservation?
I think we are, there's no substantive changes that are needed. I think it's just closing out, but I'll defer to Tim on that. Tim?
Yeah, they expressed interest in the last hearing that we met with them to wait until the planning board had finished their determination before closing there.
Really?
But otherwise, there were no substantial
Usually it's
change.
the other way around.
Yeah, it was new to me that they asked that last time.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we put something in this decision that the applicant shall comply with the conservation's order of conditions?
Yeah, they would have to anyways, but if the board would like a condition related to that, I can.
So can we authorize Tim, can we vote and can we authorize Tim to execute this with, subject to us making those changes and replacing the in the second paragraph, the word shall instead of may.
And then in the
Then it's
In-
condition,
number 26, taking away the word secure.
we also, before that, we have, for 26, A, we have, is it A? It's hard to
Yep.
see with the blue. I'm colorblind, so it's hard for me to see this.
Yeah, which may include rather
Which may include, and then we're removing the word secure.
So can we vote, can we take them and just include something about the conservation approval? Comply with the conservation approval. If we've closed the public hearing,
Yes, we have. For this particular.
so I guess I'd make a motion that we authorize Tim as clerk to execute the decision entitled Planning Board regarding application for site plan approval 335 Maple Avenue on the commercial component, Lot 1, I think it's called, with the changes that so Tim can execute the signature page and Chris can make the changes.
Second.
Okay, so does this need to be a roll call to vote? This is to grant or deny the permit, correct?
No, it's just-
Correct.
That's just site plan approval, right?
Correct.
So we don't have to, doesn't have to poll us.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second on the table, so all those in favor,
Aye.
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 opposed? A. So that's what, 3-1?
Oh, you voted no? You against it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you next month.
Okay.
Got some work to do.
Next item is discuss and vote on lot release for Cypress Ridge.
Yes, so the board asked me to review with council in relation to the litigation and taking action on this. I did discuss that with town council, and they recommend that we move forward with it.
Okay,
Okay,
that's fine.
so is there a motion to release the lots for Cypress Ridge?
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next, discuss and vote on updating fee in lieu figures.
I'd ask that we pass over this. I was looking at the materials, and I failed to upload those for this evening, so I apologize. We'll have that for the August meeting.
Okay, and then discuss and vote to appoint a representative to the Master Plan Steering Committee. Didn't we just do this?
I think we did that.
Didn't we just do this?
At the last, no?
I think we did.
That was the
No,
other
that was the
9,000
CMRPC.
committees.
That was CMRPC,
It was.
Oh, that's right, that's right. My apologies.
and I said I'd be the alternate.
Okay, so we need a representative for the Master Plan Steering Committee. What is the obligation for the Master Plan Steering Committee?
So the obligation for the Master Plan Steering Committee will be small. We understand a lot of the positions on this will be board appointees as well as at-large residents. So we'll be cognizant, but primarily what it is, we'll probably be meeting semi-regularly, mostly during the public engagement process, likely when we're trying to set policy objectives and direction, and then near the finalization of the project. So, during that development stage where we need to meet with the committee to get that direction, we'll meet with them. But we'll also be cognizant of schedules and commitments.
When do you think that's gonna occur?
So I think we're really trying to, we would be convening the first kind of kickoff to introduce the consultant to the steering committee and set that process a little bit more formally, likely in August.
In how long? Like, what's the time frame?
So it typically takes about a year, so it would be about 12 months commitment, but again, there will be
Once a month?
probably a lull. Probably to begin, there will be a once a month, and then I would anticipate a lull as we get into some of the meat of the project and developing recommendations. But
I just don't have the time.
we don't have a day of the,
We don't, so we would, depending upon who's appointed, we would work on coordinating what schedules fit best with those that need to. I'm happy to provide remote options where needed, things like that, accommodations. So.
Does it have to be a member of the board? Could it be a staff member within your department?
So we are not considering staff members, so.
Okay.
I'll do it. I just won't go. Just like the last one.
For the record, Steve has said,
I'll be remote.
if you're willing to do that, Steve, that would be greatly
I
appreciated.
will do that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Steve.
So,
Thank you, Steve.
yes, we take a vote on appointing Steve as the Master Plan Steering Committee representative? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
That one's getting better than the next one.
That's the one that Dino's gonna do.
I was on that one.
Discuss and vote to appoint a representative to the Community Preservation Committee.
I'll do that.
Oh, Dino,
Thank you, Dino.
you're fabulous.
You're on my
Thank-
team.
You are a saint.
So those in favor of appointing Dino? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Right.
Next item, we have one A&R, or we have three A&Rs in front of us. Is this, or is it all
just
one?
one, three-
Excuse me,
three of
one A&R in front of us for 4 Cheryl Drive, 44 Topsfield Circle, 48 Topsfield Circle. These plans have been reviewed by staff for compliance with Mass General Law and have been recommended for endorsement. Do I have a motion to endorse the plans and authorize the town engineer to sign on the board's behalf?
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And there is no correspondence this evening,
I
so.
move that we conclude this evening's public hearings.
So with that, I'd like to, we'll adjourn, meeting adjourned.